Hello and welcome to the Young Guns. We're here tonight with quite a bit of a bag of mixture of goodies, so to speak. We got some college football news and we have basketball pick'em.
Alright.
Um, Tonight it's me, the awesome dude, the awesome one, the best of the bunch. Buckeye Mike. I'm joined with the greatest, Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports, the most diehard Gold Domer homer you'll ever see, Will and D, repping that nasty blue and gold, and Jackson Johnson. How are we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing
Going
good,
pretty
doing
good.
good.
How's it going with you, Buckeye Mike?
Pretty good, pretty good.
All right. So,
Oh man, that's a big win for that all Clemson conference. I mean Clemson.
hmm so we got Garrett Riley going to Clemson. Now, obviously, we know it's great. It's a lot better than Brandon Streeter. But do you guys think they're back to being a championship contender?
Oh
Or
yeah,
do you think for sure? Do you think they're competing?
for sure.
Definitely. So,
Well, I mean, all Garrett Riley has to do is run great offense with a more talented team. Because TCU, great story, and they had really good players, but they got to the playoff. All you got to do is do that at Clemson with Cade Klubnik. If he progresses and keeps improving and they're running offense at an elite level with the players that they have, then Clemson should be a playoff team again. As long as their defense is still really, really good. Because, I mean, he can coach offense. I mean, that's literally the Achilles heel of his brother, Lincoln Riley. He can coach offense. There's no defense. Garrett Riley's going to be the offensive coordinator at Clemson. He's not going to have to worry about the defense. Clemson doesn't need him to worry about the defense. They got that seemingly been shored up for years. So, again, all he's got to do is run really good offense, and things should go well for Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, this is gonna help them for sure. This is an A+ hire for Clemson. I mean, yeah, they're gonna repeat the ACC, but they're gonna do way more than that. They're gonna go back to the college football playoff. They're going to go back to beating South Carolina. They're going to go back to winning big, big games in the New Year's Six. I mean, and you might just see Garrett Riley get a national title before his brother, Lincoln. Man, that's going to be a funny dinner on Easter dinner, so to speak. So, Garrett, you got a national title before Lincoln Riley. You're not even a head coach. Oh, yeah, Mom, I did.
Yeah, he already has a playoff win.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing, too, is like, okay, so to that point, Lincoln Riley is a stubborn piece of crap. Meaning he is stubborn to the point that he doesn't want to change anything. He doesn't care about his defense. Well, guess what? The more you don't care about your defense, the more you're going to cycle through constantly what you already have accomplished. What do you accomplish? Win the conference. Beat the crap out of your conference. Except sometimes you're tested. Why? You don't have a defense. And then if you do make playoffs, you get beat up and down the field when it's not even close. I mean, you were lucky enough to hang in there with Georgia, with Baker Mayfield. And guess what? Baker was the difference. If Baker wasn't on the team, you get slaughtered, just like you did in the rest of the games. That's obvious. Garrett is obviously, like, if I was a betting man, I would put probably a couple hundred down on Garrett getting a national title before Lincoln Riley, because Lincoln doesn't want to make the changes that he needs to make to be the first one to get the title.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he likes your shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Patriots, man.
All right. So we got a whole NIL situation going on in Gainesville. We got guaranteed money that wasn't given out. So, what do you think this says about Florida and the kind of the downward spiral they've been going on ever since Urban left? And what do you guys think it says about NIL?
I think as far as the Florida part, well, we know the next spot that Jimbo Fisher is going to go. Yeah, you want to talk about creating messes? Just get Jimbo over there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, overall, I mean, this is just not great. You have an astronomical figure to get a player to come, and it's like you said, it's not handed out, and it's just it just creates a mess. Overall, I mean, it could happen with any program, but it's Florida here, and it's with Jaden Rashad. I think that unless certain things are done to prevent this in the future, and other controversies like this, it's going to keep happening to an extent.
Well, from what I'm hearing and from what we're all hearing, Washington has a shot to get him to come, but he more than likely would sit for a year behind Mr. Michael Penix. But I'll tell you what, though, if Washington's able to get him to come out of Florida, honestly, it says more about Florida than it says about Washington. And I don't mean that in a positive light for Florida. So
I just think, like, what? Like, do they need to offer this much money to get Jane Rashada? Like, can they only offer him like a normal amount for a quarterback? I mean, it's still a lot, but it's not $13 million. It's crazy.
Edward, great point.
Yeah.
No high school players worth that. As far as this whole thing, yes, this player, I don't care if he's like the number one overall in the country and 5-star. I don't care. One guy, Ryan Day, said to keep the entire team intact, he needs 10 to 15 million in NIL money. To Jeffrey's point before we got on. So you're telling me to keep an entire football team at Ohio State is 10 to 15, but for one freaking player, 13 million? Yeah, okay. There needs to be an investigation on that, for one.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Two, there needs to be, and the NCAA is dragging their feet, but they're starting to do it. There needs to be regulations put in place with NIL.
Yes.
Now, to clarify, none of us are saying NIL is a bad thing. Yes, these guys deserve to get paid. Why? How else are they going to be able to survive and get through college?
They deserve to get paid, but not in the way it's being done right here.
Yes.
Yeah, $13 million over 4 years. That's just nuts.
Even if it's over 4 years, it's like that's like a little over $3 million a year. I mean, really? That's like a rookie contract.
I mean, it's basically 3,250,000 a year for the next 4 years. That's nuts.
Yeah, and he was only ranked the 7th best quarterback on the composite ranking. He wasn't even like Arch Manning or Dante Moore.
That's a whole story in itself. You guys remember hearing the story about Arch Manning losing his ID in his student ID within the first week of being on campus?
Yeah.
Oh man,
I don't care if the guy is the number one overall quarterback, number one overall player in the country, and a 5-star. No player is worth.
Edward's point down here, NIL is a great thing, but the way it's set up now is awful. It's just pay to play with no cap. But essentially, these programs are just handing out the dollars not because they care about these players, but the fact that they want those players to play for them so they can win. It's not that they actually care about them.
Yeah, but to counter Edwards' point, and I know he probably made it for this reason. Hey, NCAA, ask Jimbo Fisher how that went.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Archer's falling on the first day of school. Oh boy. Jimmy's back. Jimmy's back.
Back again. Back again.
I will say that's the absolute perfect picture to put on there.
I was so happy when I found that picture, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's like,
Yeah. Do you guys
I
think
mean,
there's any chance?
Me and Buckeye Mike did a segment. We did a segment on our unscripted about Jim Harbaugh, and we were I basically said that I felt that he would not take any of the jobs that were open in the NFL. But that's not to say he won't ever go. Eventually he might. But I don't think any of the jobs were, tantalizing enough, or to say, hey, this is better than Michigan by a long shot. I gotta take this job, win a Super Bowl. That just wasn't the case. Michigan's just the better option right now. And I know that the way it's being worded is like, oh, he's gonna stay at Michigan for years to come. Again, we have no idea. He could leave next year. I just no clue what he's gonna do. But most Michigan fans are happy about this. 2 years ago, they wouldn't have been because they all couldn't stand him in 2020. But now that they've done what they've done, most Michigan fans like him, except the fact they did lose to TCU. But it's going to be very interesting to see what's going to happen in the future with this one. Because we're going to be talking about this again.
oh, for sure. But I'll tell you what, though, the NCAA, I've heard that Harbaugh is in a bit of a pickle with the NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of like, should he have left first chance he got? Should he have stayed? We're going to find out in the coming weeks and the coming months ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But let's be real. He's not getting suspended or for a full year or getting fired at all. No. If he gets punished, it's going to be like the first 3-4 games of the year.
And here's
Clean
the
up
thing.
your program, Michigan. I'm disappointed in you. I'm clean up your program.
And here's the thing. Like, Michigan fans are going to come out of the Harbaugh suspension like, oh my God, holy crap, because they're going to be undefeated. Why are they going to be undefeated? Because that schedule is so soft. It is
Watch out for the Pirates, though, Mike. Watch out for the Pirates, man.
Here's the thing. Hold on. Be careful. Because I even said that, and I got backlash.
So you think that Michigan could lose to ECU like they lost?
Okay, I feel like they might overlook them, like they did with TCU, like they did with Appalachian State. That culture is ingrained in Michigan to overlook teams.
Yeah, clearly those people giving you backlash clearly did not watch East Carolina, North Carolina State.
That's what I said. I was like, okay.
ECU should have won that game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. They definitely should have.
That field goal kicker, man.
Kickers, man, they suck. They shouldn't exist in the game anymore.
What's up, Brian?
What's up?
What's up, bro?
How's it going,
Here,
Brian? How are you, man?
I mean, and that's the thing, like, I think, see, I don't like the way that he did this because he's basically holding Michigan hostage because he already got an extension last year, and now he's holding Michigan hostage, trying to get more money out of them by dipping his toe again into the NFL. Which, by the way, he said that he was never going to do that again. He's fully committed to Michigan. He said that last offseason.
That's a load of baloney.
Yes. Because what does he do? He dips his toe back into the NFL. Because I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you guys, once a spot like if Bowles can't handle it in Tampa and Tom Brady stays, he could probably go to Tampa if they get rid of Bowles. If Kansas City opens up with Andy Reid, because Andy Reid's older than dirt, then he could go to Kansas City. And our segment basically was he's going to go somewhere he can have instant success. And as Jeffrey's point a little bit ago and in the segment, there's not a current opening where he can go and have instant success. Because that's what he wants. And of course, his little baby, his little lollipop. I mean, this irritates me, but it's not from the perspective that you guys and the audience might think. I just think it's wrong the way that he's treating the University of Michigan. He's basically, like I said, holding them hostage so that he can climb the ladder to success.
Sorry.
Well, is that baby crying?
My apartment has no noise cancellation, so I hear everything that's outside and these super motorcycles.
All the noise.
Noise.
Are they revving it up for Harbaugh coming back?
Michigan's happy, man, for sure. I mean, they're happy about beating up on Ohio State for 2 straight years. I just wonder if this is going to be 3 straight years.
Hey, Edward, I would agree possibly that the Colts defense is good enough, but they need to be more fundamental and not blow 33-0 leads to the Vikings either. Their defense really collapsed in that one. So they need to play better.
All right. Ready to move on to CJ Stroud. We thought he might stay in Columbus, but he's leaving. What do you think? How do you think this will affect the Buckeyes next year?
Before Buckeye Mike goes, just real quick, everybody that actually understands the pre-draft process and when you're a top 5 pick, even with NIL now, everybody knew that CJ Stroud was leaving.
Right.
Everybody knew he was leaving. There was no way he was coming back. Absolutely no way, unless he loves Ohio State that much. And I'm not saying that he doesn't, but you're not coming back. You're not turning away being a top 5 pick in the draft and what he's going to make in the NFL. In NIL, you're not going to make that much. So if he gets hurt, if he got hurt this upcoming season at Ohio State, he would drop in the draft. So it makes absolutely no sense. I mean, I know a lot of people thought that he might return because he hadn't declared it, but there's no way he was not declaring for the draft. That's all I got to say about it.
You guys can go, and then I'll close it out.
I got to admit, I was a little worried about the Ohio State game when I heard that CJ might be coming back. But I'm confident that we'll be able to pull through now that there's no CJ. I mean, I'm not like super confident, but I'm like 60% confident that we'll win. Say 60%.
Dude, that's too confident. You need to be at about 20 to 30. Put you in the place where you belong, boy.
I mean, he's going to be he's the first Ohio State quarterback to have a losing record against Michigan since Steve Bellazzari. Like,
he wasn't even the best one at that time. That's funny.
Huh?
He wasn't even the best quarterback at that time. So
true. But still, it's kind of like, I wonder if the draft scouts are going to be looking at that and just be like,
bro, you didn't beat Michigan at all as starting quarterback. Are you gonna win the big games? You couldn't beat Michigan. Well, we need a quarterback, so we're desperate.
He's like their first QB since I think like the 90s, the 80s, maybe the 70s.
That's what I'm saying. Steve Bellazzari from 1999 to 2001. Although Bellazzari beat Michigan in 2001, but lost to them in 99, 2000.
I thought Craig Krenzel was the quarterback in 2001.
02.
Okay. I thought he was 01 to 03. Okay.
But he wasn't the starter.
Okay. All right, Mike.
I would have loved to see him come back. Realistically, I knew he wasn't coming back. So, Edward, that's a moot point. I like to entertain things and make, over-exaggerate things, so to speak. I was because if you listen to his press conferences, it was like, towards the end, it was like, should I come back because I'm the first QB to not beat Michigan my entire career since like the 80s or 70s, and didn't win a national championship, didn't even compete for one because you didn't get to the national championship. So, I mean, yes, the expectations are high at Ohio State, but apparently they're higher at Ohio State than they are at Michigan. So, but anyway, I'm okay with this because here's the thing: Kyle McCord is closer.
I mean, to Edward's point, I brought it up before. Mike just admit you hate him after I told you. In fact, you had a chance to be Jordan. Now you love him. I mean, literally, it was so funny before that game, man. You're like, Stroud, he's going to be an undrafted free agent. He doesn't belong in the NFL. I mean, those were literally your quotes about
I know.
Stroud. You said you wanted him gone. He shouldn't even be drafted. But after the Georgia game, and then, that's when Ohio State fans wanted him back. And I mean, I don't think it's completely fair to say that you want him back just for that one game. I mean, he's had a great career. To your point, Ohio State's expectations are insane because they are one of the 4 best teams in college football for the last 20 years, winning percentage, and what they've done historically. So, I mean, the expectations are fair, but you can't trash a quarterback for losing to one team 2 years in a row when you've won every other game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little extreme. And then when you almost beat Georgia and you should have won if it wasn't for Marvin Harrison Jr. going out, then now you suddenly like the guy. That's just a little bit hypocritical. Just a little bit.
See, that's the problem. I never posted on YouTube or social media before we started this whole thing. So I could say what I'm about to say and technically be lying to you guys, but I'm not. I have always liked CJ. I am just very strenuously tough on QBs. Why? Because I want a QB that is good to great to incredible to amazing and can actually whoop a team. Look at his Rose Bowl performance last year. You're telling me he's not great and he does that?
Well, that was against freaking running back, wide receivers playing as corners, right? For Utah.
Doesn't matter. It was Utah. It was a heck of a performance. Like that record, I guarantee will never be broken. Or if it is, it's probably either by another Ohio State quarterback under Ryan Day, or it's, after we're all long gone.
To be fair, though, that game, I mean, C.J. Stroud played fantastic in that Utah game, but you got to give so much credit to the guy that did not play in this playoff. Jackson Smith and Jigba balled out, man, in that game. I mean, that's when he came onto the scene. I mean, people knew who he was, but he was behind other receivers that they opted out for that game against Utah, and then he just had a game. It was insane. And he had like 300 yards receiving. It was insane.
Hello, Bill.
Thank you, Biohazard.
Biohazard.
Really
How's it
appreciate
going?
it.
How's it going, man? Glad to see you coming on.
Really appreciate the support.
Thank you so much.
I have a little trivia for you, Buckeye Mike.
Uh-huh.
Do you know the last multi-year Buckeye starter to not beat the Wolverines? Do you know? I just looked it up.
I do not actually.
Greg Fry.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, who was Brady Quinn's quarterback coach in high school. Funny enough. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. Overall, the dude was great at Ohio State. I'm just very particular and picky. He's awesome. Appreciate him being here, giving his best effort all the time, even though it seemed to a lot of people, sometimes including myself, that he didn't. Congrats. Hopefully, we've finally got QBs that can actually succeed in the next level. I mean, in a sense, in my eyes, Justin Fields is succeeding. He's in an organization, though, that doesn't want to build around him. So I think that moniker is going away, where it's like, oh, don't go to Ohio State if you're a quarterback and want to play in the pros, because you're going to ball out at Ohio State and you're going to suck in the pros.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to be fair, I'm not taking away from the quarterbacks that Ohio State's had, the last 10, 15 years. But you got to admit, Buckeye Mike, though.
2-1 against Michigan. 2-1 against Michigan.
The big reason why Ohio State's quarterbacks have had success in college and then they went pro and weren't very good is because of the fact when they were at Ohio State's been wide receiver U for a long time. You have the best receivers in college football, and the defense in college football for the other teams are not as good as what you face in the NFL.
Yep.
So I think that a lot of the quarterbacks that Ohio State has had were not actually that good, but they were propped it up like we've all kind of said about Stetson Bennett. I know that's not the exact same thing. I understand, because you compare someone like Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, to Stetson Bennett. It's not even the same thing, but I watched Dwayne Haskins play at Ohio State, and I'm like, a lot of his throws are dump offs and then they run 50 yards. I mean, he did throw the ball deep, but a lot of it was dump offs and they run 50 yards. CJ Stroud could throw the ball deep. I watched him play last year. I watched him play this year. Yeah, I criticized him saying he only gave 80% half the time, because he did. It is absolutely true. But you see what CJ Stroud's capable of when he gives it his all. But I just don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that those quarterbacks for Ohio State were bad. I'm just saying I don't think that they were as good as people let on, because they were propped up by great teams, great receivers, great running backs, great offensive linemen that they had. And they go pro and they struggle, and people are wondering why. It's just the way it is. You have to be an elite quarterback to succeed in both.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, it's obvious that, like, Ohio State, when Ohio State QBs go pro, it's the quarterback spot when you go pro that is the struggle. Because, I mean, look at Ted Ginn Jr. Ted Ginn Jr. played, like, what, almost 15 seasons in the league? And he was a wide receiver. Ohio State gets a lot of people drafted, and that seems to be the one position that's like,
I have another Commander story.
Oh, God.
Dan Snyder wanted to trade up for Dwayne Haskins. He was worried that the Giants were going to take them, so he wanted to trade up. But they made it. But eventually, they got it to, like, to not do the trade, but we were going to trade draft picks to pick Dwayne Haskins, but it didn't even end up needing to trade draft picks to get him. We just got him anyways. But
So here's my
stuff.
question for you. Why in the world, if Dan Snyder wanted him to begin with, why would you hire Ron Rivera and let Ron Rivera run him out of town?
Oh no, man.
Because Dan Snyder's a moron.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, it's all debatable anyway, man. I mean, I don't know about that one. I mean, come on, some people do. I mean, somebody likes all teams, or some team anyway. But I think with the quarterbacks, again, like I said, if you succeed in the NFL, it's because you're elite most of the time. And I know that there are some exceptions. There are some exceptions of quarterbacks that had great careers, but they weren't actually elite because, yet again, it can happen in the NFL where you're surrounded by just great defenses and on your team and great offensive players that you get by. But in college, it's just so much more obvious when you see a guy, quote unquote, balling out and putting up great numbers and everything. And then, they're a top 10 quarterback. And it's like, well, where are you seeing it beside the fact that they're on one of the best teams in college football and then they go pro and then they don't do well and then people are wondering why? And it's like, it's obvious. It really is. But I don't think some people will never figure it out.
So you brought up Stetson Bennett, and I wanted to touch on this real quick, but and I'm not saying this in the sense of I don't like Stetson Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
If you're 25 years old and you're up for AARP membership, you should not be a quarterback or let alone any position on a college football team. The freaking TCU punter was 29. Once you get to okay, I understand you still have eligibility. If you go to JUCO, it doesn't count against it. Well, guess what? It should. And I'm not saying that specifically to single him out.
Do you know why it doesn't? Because it has nothing to do with on the field. It's about their education. So it's almost like when you go to a community college and then you move up to college. So like if you go to a community college after high school for 2 years and then you go to college, if you're an athlete, then that's not going to work because of the fact that, think about it. If you count those 2 years and then they have 4 years of college to actually get a degree in education, but you're only going to give them 2 years on the field, it doesn't make sense. That's why you have to give them all the years. I get your point. I mean, it completely makes sense, but you have to grant them that. It's kind of like that one guy for Nebraska who was in the military, and he was like a defensive lineman on their team, and he's like 31. Why? Because he's in college. I mean, that doesn't matter. I understand what you're saying, but I don't care about Stetson Bennett's age on whether he's good or not. I'm talking about the fact that he's on the best team in college football, and that's why he has success. If he can succeed at the NFL level, then Stetson Bennett is elite. And I understand that that's putting way too much on a guy because he is so short for the quarterback position. What he's done is incredible in his own right. The fact he was a former walk-on, and I'm just using him as an example. That, to me, is why Ohio State's quarterbacks have mostly failed in the NFL. It's because they never were elite quarterbacks that got propped up by great teams. I'm not saying they weren't good players. They just weren't great players.
I mean, my whole thing with the whole thing is, for example, is Stetson Bennett actually really good? Or is it just the fact that, like, okay, his brain process of play works differently than someone like Stroud because he's 25.
Trevor Lawrence won the national title as a freshman. Bryce Young came in, not Bryce Young, Tua Tagovailoa came in and won the title in the second half for Alabama. I don't necessarily think it matters on the age if you're that good. Again, Stetson Bennett's age doesn't really matter. I know you're saying he's more mature, the processing and everything. I mean, that makes sense, but I mean that guy for North Texas, Austin Ani's like almost 30. I mean, using that logic, he should be the best quarterback in college football. He's
But
really
I
good.
mean,
He's not that good.
my point's not really like to discredit him, but do you understand where I'm coming from? I
I
mean,
do. I'm just using the counter argument as well to create
right?
slight debate. I mean, I agree. I know what you're saying.
Because like to me, you want to talk about because the whole big thing with NIL was it's going to ruin college football. No, when you have freaking quarterbacks that are like 29, 30 years old, 25 years old, that's what ruins college football. Why? Because they look more dominant than they really are. Why? Because their brain is further progressed and further processed so that they're able to process the field view and the play.
But again, to counter argue that, even though I agree, if they were capable of being in the NFL already, they would be. I mean, like what would break college football is if Bryce Young was 25 years old and in college football. That would break college football because he's a guy that shouldn't even be in college playing. You know what I'm saying? He should be in the NFL. That would break the sport. I don't really think Stetson Bennett has broken the sport. I would more say the Georgia team and the Alabama teams of the last 10, 15 years have broken the sport. The team overall is so talented. I don't think 25-year-old quarterbacks can break the sport because most of the guys that are that old playing in college are not good enough to be in the NFL. So it's not really doing anything. I get your argument, but it just kind of falls flat when you look at it from the fact that who's playing. If it was Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Tua Tagovailoa, it goes Trevor Lawrence. If those guys were playing at 25 in college football, that would be insane. That would be messed up.
Cormani McClain goes to Colorado, breaks the hearts of Canes fans everywhere. Now, how do we think that Colorado's getting overhyped, or do you actually think they can maybe even make a bowl game next year?
I think they can make a bowl game next year. I mean that recruiting class, the recruiting and the transfer portal. I mean, it's just holy cow. They're gonna pull off some upsets in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, when you're bringing in a lot of talented players, I mean, there's nowhere to go but up. I mean, if this was college football 5 years ago, I mean, I think Deion Sanders would still be able to get players to go to Colorado on his name alone, but this is a different era of the sport. You know, I mean, you look at teams that are just able to turn it around. I mean, that's why a lot of people are like, was Michigan State jumping the gun on Mel Tucker's extension? Because it's like you turn that season around because you bring in Kenneth Walker and he just was a beast all year. You know, and they go 11-2, but it's like he's gone. Michigan State is now 5-7. I don't think this is going to be an issue with Deion necessarily because I think, again, if he's able to make Colorado a 5-7 or a 6-6 team this year, he's going to continue to get players off of his name alone, and the fact that, I mean, Colorado's obviously investing in the program at some point somehow. Because I mean, I don't think some of these guys will be coming otherwise, but you're gonna be better. I mean, you can't get the amount of great players that they're getting and not be better. So I think the question is it's going to be on Deion to see how much better he can make the team. Because if Deion Sanders can make this team bowl eligible or better, a bowl game or better, like 7-5 or whatever, then that's fantastic. Because even though he is bringing all this talent, you have to fuse it together, and he's not going to be able to completely revamp the whole roster. It's not like he's getting 80 guys. There's still going to be players on that team that are not, you know, from last year's team and aren't as good. So he's going to have to mesh it all together and create a team that's never played together. It's in his first season at the Power 5 level. So even though he's bringing in all this talent, he's going to have to figure out a way to put it all together. And if he does, then Colorado could be really good in the years after this because of the fact more players are going to want to go to Colorado based on what he was able to do in his year one.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I just think that they're bringing in good talent at Colorado. Like, I'm not disputing that fact at all. But I feel like the talent that's on Colorado that's going to be playing, it's not like you can't just recruit a whole new team. Like, that's a ton of money. And even Colorado, even though they're spending a lot of money, they don't have that. So I just feel like it'll be a building year for Colorado. I think they'll be lucky to go 4-8 this year. I mean, they'll definitely be better than they were last year because that was rock bottom. I mean, I know they did.
I mean, a point that I made a video on kind of this topic. So, I mean, watch it if anybody wants to see what I said in that one. Because, I mean, what I'm saying here is like you think about the Pac-12. If this was a couple years ago where the Pac-12 was down, then it would be a lot easier for Deion Sanders to come and bring this talent in and maybe win more in year one with the Pac-12 being awful. But the Pac-12 is better now. You saw what they were this past year, and a lot of the same guys are back. Caleb Williams, Cam Rising, Michael Penix, Bo Nix. They're not going anywhere. Oregon State's probably still going to be really solid. We don't know how good DJ Uiagalelei is going to do there, whoever's playing quarterback. Washington State, Cameron Ward, very solid. Arizona's improved with Jed Fish. The conference as a whole, UCLA got Dante Moore. The conference as a whole is just deep now.
Yeah.
This was 2 or 3 years ago. I think it's almost a guarantee Colorado could have made a bowl game because of how poor the Pac-12 was. But now that it's better and there's so many good teams in it, it's going to be extremely difficult for him to make a bowl game. But I think it's possible. But I'm with you, Will. 4-8, 5-7 seems more likely.
Mike, are you available to talk?
I mean, this seems like a key addition for Colorado and Deion. You know, another big name. And I don't want to sound like I'm piggybacking, but to me, there are things that are starting to happen that's like, okay, we're not talking about taking Colorado from 1-11 to 3-9. We're starting to see the pieces falling into place at Colorado because Deion is Deion and who he is and how he represents himself and the way he puts himself out there. We're starting to see that this Colorado team is starting to get to a point where there's a big turnaround coming. And again, we're not talking 1-11 to 3-9. We're talking 1-11 to 5-7, 6-6. Starting to see the pieces fall into place where we can have that kind of a turnaround and an outcome happen. So I think to answer the smaller question on the screen, I do think they'll be able to make it to a bowl game. And it's crazy because technically by the letter of the law, because the NCAA is weird, yes, a 5-7 team shouldn't make a bowl game. But I could literally see the NCAA and the committee saying, okay, Deion took them from 1-11 to 5-7. It's close enough. Put them in a crappy early bowl game.
5-7 is way too low. They are looking way better than 5-7, man.
I don't know.
That Colorado team is looking impressive. I mean, they got
to Edward's point, most of the portal players you got are not great impact players. Well, the thing is that a lot of these guys are players that didn't work out at their previous style. Like Kaviasi Smoke, for example. the transfer running back from Kentucky. He had flashes, he had moments, but he got shelved for Chris Rodriguez. So, I mean, again, it's going to be about meshing these guys that have talent together in year one in the Power 5. And they have a difficult schedule. I mean, that's not to be understated. They have a difficult schedule. I mean, the non-conference at TCU to start the season. I mean, TCU's not going to be as good as they were this past season, but they're still going to be better than Colorado. Nebraska at home, that's tough. Matt Rule. I mean, it's their first season as well. That's going to be tough. Should be Colorado State. But then you've got the Pac-12 schedule, which is way more difficult than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Yes,
you got
I agree. I think that he can't take him to a bowl game. I do. I give it around a 40 to 50% chance that he will. But there's also a chance that he doesn't because the Pac-12 is too good and he's not able to mesh this together right away. Because, like, to a lot of people's point, even though there's a lot of stars next to these guys' names, there's also a lot of guys that didn't work out, and you have to bring that out. And, I mean, Edward knows this point perfectly. I mean, I asked him about in one of the after streams about EJ Williams, the Clemson wide receiver transfer that is went to Indiana. I'm like saying he was almost a 5-star recruit, and to Edward's point, he's going to have to, realize his talent, and that's what's going to be for a lot of these players going to Colorado. They're going to have to realize the talent that they do possess, but now they're going to have to be the guys. They're not going to be the backups anymore. They're going to be the starters on a team, and they're going to have to play. And if they do, and Deion can get the team together, they can make a bowl game. But we're going to have to see it first. It could go either way.
I mean, to counteract Jackson's comment, I mean, yes, for a Deion team, 5-7 is too low, but this is a first-year team with minimal pieces being put together.
And an improved Pac-12 again. That
A better Pac-12. And so I mean, if you're thinking 7-5, 8-4 is the ceiling for them, that'd be awesome if they could get there. But the pieces are not there to get to 7-5. The ceiling for them at best is 6-6. They probably likely won't even get to 6-6. But that's possible. It is possible. That's why I'm saying it's the ceiling, not something like 7-5, 8-4.
I mean, I think that the craziest possibility would be 7-5, but I think more likely it's 4, 8, 5, and 7. But I think 6-6 is possible. I mean, I could see anywhere from maybe at worst, probably not 3-9, 4-8. 3-9 is very probably unlikely, but 4-8 to 7-5. That's ceiling floor for me. And to me, it's more at 5-7 to average it out. I think it's possible though. I mean, we're months away from the season, man. I mean, we don't even know how the rest of the conference is going to look. We don't know, when training camp comes, how these guys are going to perform. I mean, again, Colorado could go in week 1 and beat TCU, and we're saying they're winning the Pac-12. You know what I'm saying? You just don't know. But it's possible, but it's way too early to tell at this point.
Well, I mean, the argument I'd put in is that to go 6-6, you'd have to have a lot of talent. Let's just say that. And Jackson, I hate to tell you, you go back and look at their portal players they brought in. Not one of them is a top 10 portal player. Not one of them. They did not bring in any portal players that are going to come in, directly impact and start right away. Most of these portal players are going to come in and more likely have to compete for a job, which is pretty bad because you're talking about a Pac-12 who, to Jeffrey's point, it is very quarterback heavy, or should I say they're offense heavy. I mean, you want to go through their schedule. I mean, you got TCU to start it off. That's probably a loss, right? With Garrett Briles or with Kendall Briles and Sonny Dykes and them. That's probably a loss because I don't care what you do. Your first game, it's going to be very hard to come out and be able to compete at a high enough level to be able to beat TCU. And then you go to Nebraska. People want to crap on Nebraska, but they probably still got more talent than Colorado does right now. Okay, and then they play Colorado State. They probably win that game, right? Because it's Colorado State. But then they go at Oregon. You think they got a chance to beat Oregon at Oregon? Not a chance.
Not a chance. But USC, they have a shot to upset USC.
With
'Cause,
Caleb
like,
Woods?
Shots fired.
I mean, I'm not saying they could do it, but I'm saying they got a shot. You know, anything
got a
can
shot.
happen. But then you go on the road to Arizona State. But who knows with Arizona State? We know literally next to nothing about what Arizona State's doing.
How do you beat USC? You have to have a great offense.
Well,
So
let's
if Colorado's going to beat USC, then their offense is going to have to be a top 15 to 20 offense.
Right.
Because their defense is bad. And I understand that you can say, well, Colorado, they could win if their offense is average because the defense for USC is so bad. But USC is going to put up points. That's why I'm saying they're going to have a great offense because they're going to have to keep up with them. Tulane had a great offense.
Right.
And they were able to hang around with USC, and a lot of crazy stuff happened at the end of that game, and they pulled it out. Are they the better team than USC? Of course not. But they pulled it out because they hung with them. USC made mistakes. If Colorado's going to win, they're going to have a much improved offense because they're going to have to put up 40 to even have a shot to beat them.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, you're talking about let's just, because you can't say anything about injuries right now. So Caleb Williams is 100% healthy. Colorado's defense is nowhere in anywhere, shape, or form going to be able to stop that offense from putting up 50, 60 points. I mean, I don't know how much SWAC football y'all watched, but when they finally decided to play Travis Hunter, that boy did get burnt for touchdowns. And Kamani McLean ran a 4.640 at 160 pounds. And he was getting torched the entire Under Armour All-American practices, which got blasted all over Twitter and got burnt on repeat during the game. I mean, that should not look good. And then you're going to go in the Pac-12 where, let's be honest, they probably got some of the top offensive weapons out there because of the way they play football. I mean, that defense is not set up for instant success. And then the one thing we know about Arizona State is it's Kenny Dillingham, and that dude's one of the best quarterback coaches and offensive minds in football. I mean, the dude's put up damn near 30 points at every school he's been at, and it's been 1 year stops. I mean, he knows how to scheme up offensive scoring. So I mean, you better hope your defense is great. You really do, because I mean, y'all didn't bring in some great D linemen or great linebackers. I mean, the best linebacker y'all brought in was Javonte Bentley from Clemson, who is a run stopper. So you better hope he don't have to get out there and pass coverage because he's going to get torched. And then you go to Stanford. So that's where the fourth game comes in, because they could beat Stanford. Or the third game. So then you got Stanford's best two games. You're probably losing to UCLA. Let's be real. Dante Moore's probably going to light it up. Then you go to Oregon State. That offense didn't lose a crap ton. So they're probably still going to be able to work the ball just the way they did. And then Arizona. And to Jeffrey's point, Jed Fish has got that team playing.
Oh, yeah.
A lot better than anyone has ever given credit for. So you're talking about a first-year coach in Deion Sanders, who everyone's all hyped up about because he got Cormani McLean, who, like I've said, in my opinion, is not a top 5 player in the country. He's good, but he's not a top 5 player in the country. He played in a weak football division in Florida, and people loved him. Okay, that's cool. We're about to see how much you really can play at the Pac-12 level. Well, I mean, Hummus Hero, he had all the offensive talent. The man had Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate. They literally gave him all the offensive linemen and the wide receivers. It wasn't fair how they did that game. And then you go to Washington State. So that's your third win. Because we don't know what Washington State's going to be. Because I don't think Cam Ward stayed, right? I think he left. And if he stayed, that makes it even harder for them.
I said earlier in the live that Cam Ward was still there. I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't hear about him go anywhere.
I thought he had to leave. I thought it was one of those things where he's getting close to
staying.
I'll look it up.
He's either got 1 year left or he's gone. Okay, so if he's there, that makes that game even harder.
He has to be back because he was only at Incarnate Word for a couple seasons. So I would assume that he's got another year or two.
And finally, you have that season finale against the two-time defending Pac-12 champ against Utah, and it's at Utah.
Bryce
So,
Eccles is not going to get a win for Dion.
yeah,
Unless Bryce Eccles completely is not a good home field advantage anymore. And Cam Rising is not playing in that game for whatever reason. And Utah's defense has like a bajillion injuries. I mean, it would take a lot for Colorado to win that one.
Yeah, and that's why I say you can't talk about it. You got to talk about them like they're healthy. So, I mean, that's a game at Utah. That's tough for any team in the country to go to at Utah, and it has been for years to go down there and win a game. So you're looking at 3 wins, possibly 2. And you can go, oh, well, games are played on Saturday and this, that. You're right. But these teams aren't just terrible overnight. I mean, these teams built something over the last year, and Dion's coming into a program that has nothing for him to build on. And to be honest with you, I don't even know what Dion can do. I mean, everyone just expects him to come in and be great. But the one thing that Dion did was he went to Jackson State and he brought in enough talent that it was better than most HBCUs. But then when he got to the championship games against a 7-6 South Carolina State, they got fucking trounced. And then when they turned around this year and went back, the first time North Carolina Central has even made it there, they were able to beat him. I mean, I don't know where people get this notion that, oh, he's just this great coach. We don't even know yet. He was in the process of building something at JSU and left, and now he's in a whole – I mean, he's at the Power 5 level. This is now a whole new ball game for this guy.
He'll win at Colorado. That is for sure. I think.
It'll take time.
Well, I mean, he's not going to win conference titles in his first year. We know that. I mean, it's going to be more like a third, fourth year, and it's going to get easier for him without USC and UCLA, in 2024 and the years beyond.
I mean, you can say that, but at the same time, Oregon ain't going nowhere. Oregon State looks like they're building a powerhouse out there in the Pac-12 for the Pac-12
Washington,
standards.
Utah
ain't going nowhere. Washington ain't going nowhere. I mean, these teams, for him to magically just come up and be able to win, it's gonna take years to build. I mean, he better start recruiting at a top 5 level.
Well, I believe he can. I mean, he's able to get
2 recruits this cycle that are really worth something. He pulled in Cormani McLean, which everyone seems to love, and he pulled in Dylan Edwards. He was able to pull in 2 guys that people like or wanted. The rest of them were kind of just the one kid he got from Nebraska. I mean, props to him. The coach left and the kid said, fuck Nebraska. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do there. I mean, I really don't see how people think he's going to turn it around so quickly. I think this is going to be, if he does turn around, a long-term project.
Right.
I mean, this ain't something that overnight he fixes. I really don't. And then I don't know if y'all have seen his coaching hires. Were those great to y'all? The defensive assistant to the assistant from Bama. He's going to be his defensive coordinator. That's cool. I mean, the dude ain't been on the field ever in his life, so let's see how that works out. And then he pulled the coach from Toledo or wherever that dude's from. I think it's Toledo, right?
Yeah, well, that's why I said
we
talked about this before. When we talked about this before, like 2 to 3 weeks ago, I said that he's going to have good, a good coaching staff around him as well, because I mean, that helps out a lot of coaches. I mean, if you have poor coordinators, I mean, even really good coaches can struggle.
Edward, to your point, it was Kent State. Sean Lewis, the head coach from Kent State.
State, yeah. And I mean, if he was smart, he would have kept Mike Zimmerman.
Mm-hmm.
That's who he hired at JSU last year, was Mike Zimmerman, the former head coach to the Vikings, the great defensive mind in Mike Zimmerman. He didn't even bring him with him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you brought an assistant to an assistant from Bama. Man, you better hope that pans out.
Well, Charles Kelly, to your point, hasn't really had a good history as a really great defense coordinator. He's been a meh coordinator, so you do have you got a point there.
I would have tried to
So-
get Glenn Schumann, maybe. I would have maybe tried for him.
I mean, he brought in a good DB coach, and I think Kevin Mathis is his name, who was a great DB coach. But I mean, you're looking at one coach, and he wasn't even on the offensive side of the ball. And I mean, the best player he brought in was his son at quarterback, which we all knew he was with him anyway. But who does that guy even throw the ball to? You know, that's the thing that people don't ask these questions. That, and I'm not saying y'all. I'm just saying, like, if you go on the Twitter, everyone's, oh man, he might win the Pac-12 next year. He might do this. He might do that. Oh man, Dion's the man. He's the king. It's like, bro, where is this roster at that he's going to do any of this with? Is it on other teams? Like, I mean, he recruited what? He got up to 36 in this cycle. So I mean, good for him.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you're talking about competing at a high. I mean, let's be honest. You're going to be competing with the Oregons and them. You're going to have to get very high recruiting classes year in and year out. And so far, it doesn't look like those kids are even thinking about coming out there. I mean, he got Cormani. Props to him. I mean, the rest of these kids in the 2024 classes, I mean, they're not even thinking about it. Some of these top kids are still thinking about Bama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, Miami, Florida State. I mean, they're not thinking about going to Colorado.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a project, a true project.
So,
And his scheduling doesn't help him.
so to the point earlier about how in the world will Colorado beat Utah, there's only one way that it would happen, and it's not going to happen. The only way is Utah to be secured into the Pac-12 title long before then, and to the point that they could rest Cam Rising and the impact of the player. That's literally the only way they would win. And I don't see Utah necessarily going undefeated. I mean, when we do the previews for 2023, maybe I could say they'll go undefeated, but I highly logically doubt they will.
That's why
That's
I
really
said, Buck,
the
on
only
Mike,
way.
that they would have to have a lot of injuries on Utah for Colorado to win. I know you did it from the resting aspect, but it's like if they have like 25 injuries and they're half a team, man, they have a shot, but anybody would.
And my one point against that would be with the amount of hype that Deion Sanders is coming in and the amount of people talking crap about other teams because Deion's now in the Pac-12 and Deion, ain't nobody about to rest nobody against him.
People are going to run the score up. People are going to run the score up.
Yeah, they're going to try to embarrass Deion Sanders. That's what they're going to do. And I wouldn't blame them. I'd do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest with you, that's what I would do on any school. I am a Jimmy Johnson and Steve Spurrier enthusiast. Well, it's not my job to stop my offense from scoring. It's your job to stop my offense from scoring. I'm sorry.
Jimmy Johnson.
I mean,
Jimmy.
that's what it is. I don't know why teams don't just say, okay, we're up by 40. Let's just throttle this team.
Well, I mean, some coaches are nice. I mean, I know we're not talking about basketball yet, which we're about to with some basketball picks, but like Indiana was beating Illinois by like 22. And then at the end of the game, Mike Woodson puts in the backups, and then they win by 15. So he's a guy that he's nice. To your point, you just want to floor him. I get it because I mean it looks better, but he's just nice, and he wants to let his bench guys get time when they can. So everybody has a different mantra and mentality.
Well, that's fine too, but the problem with putting in your backups is a lot of guys put their backups in, and then like in football, I'm gonna put my backups in and just run the ball. Why don't you put the backup? I mean, do what Georgia did. Put the backups in and just we're gonna keep throwing the damn ball.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, well, that's a great point because of the fact that what's the point of having the backup quarterback in the game just to hand the ball off? You might as well have your starting quarterback in the game to hand the ball to the backup running back then, if that's what you want to do, because the quarterback's not going to get hurt because you're handing the ball. So it's crazy.
I mean, you might as well. I mean, the point of putting your backups in is to give them quality time. Why not open up the playbook and give them quality time?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just the craziest thing to me. And you see that all the time. Their teams are up 30, 40. We're just going to run the ball. It's like, I wouldn't. You're better than me. Because the one thing they talk about in every time is, oh, but they only beat this team by that much. And a lot of those times it's because the defenses get tired or they give up. So the team score in garbage time and make the game look closer. And then it goes against you.
All right. Well, Edward, we appreciate your input. Can we put you in the over on the side and talk some basketball, and then we'll bring you back in at the end?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Na. Hey.
Hey, wait a minute, Will. That's false advertising. He's retiring.
He's being asked
No,
to
he's resigning, actually.
Hey, I know what it is, man. It's just funny though.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, Mike Bray's done a lot of good at Notre Dame. He's had great years. He's had 2 straight Elite 8 years. Never could really win the big game. So, I mean, we got screwed by the refs against Kentucky in the Elite 8. But
Everybody,
Just accept Kentucky was better than you and you lost.
watch
Quit
the game, bro.
Will.
We watch the game, man.
Fuck, am I? Everybody does. Okay, everybody does.
I know, that's why I reacted the way I did, because everybody does it. Be a bigger man and don't be like everybody.
Well,
Just
calm
accept
down,
some-
Mike. Whoa. Take a deep breath, Mike. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
There's a lot of games that teams lose because of the guys that call fouls. I mean, it happens. I mean, you watch a lot of games, man. I mean, like to your point, Buck, I might be the better team. Like Indiana beat Illinois tonight with Illinois shooting 22 free throws and Indiana shot 8, but Indiana hit like 12 more shots. So sometimes you got to be bigger than the free throws. I mean, I feel you. I understand.
I know, but like when there's the talent gap that Notre Dame and Kentucky had, I mean, having the refs really hurts.
It does sting, man. I mean, we saw it last year and with the Hall of Fame coach that's no longer on the Blue Devils. I mean, a lot of their games in the tournament last year, especially the Michigan State game. Michigan State probably wins that game if there's not a lot of fouls caught on them. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's not to say anything about college basketball. It's just a lot of times teams lose games because the other team makes a lot more, gets a lot more, makes a lot more free throws than you do.
Mm-hmm.
So who's gonna replace Mike Bray now? Is the question? Is it gonna be Steve Bacall from Rutgers?
He'd be a good
Exactly,
shout.
Edward.
He'd be a good shout for sure. Yeah.
Or is it gonna be John Beilein? I do wonder.
John Beeline, Steve Peichel, they're both good shouts. We might go mid-major. Who knows, man? It'll be interesting.
John Beilein's only going to be an option if John Beilein wants to coach again.
It's his dream jobs to go to Notre Dame. He said that
if he does, if he wants to coach again, then perfect. You've got the perfect coach for about 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. But he's going to have to want to coach.
Hey, Will,
Mhm.
I want to be a coach of some sport one day. I don't want to coach at Notre Dame. Not everybody wants to coach
No,
at
he
Notre
said
Dame.
that though. He said that. He said that. It's a quote. He said that, man. I'm not lying.
I think Buckeye Mike's 3 least favorite teams of all time are Notre Dame, Michigan, and USC. If there's another team, then you can let me know. But I'm pretty sure that I'm and to rank them in order is probably Michigan, Notre Dame, USC. I was saying USC number 2, but I think Notre Dame's at number 2, man. You go after them harder than the Trojans. You just say their defense is bad, but with Notre Dame, it's like everything's bad.
All right. Well, I
But
think
to
it's
your
time
point, before we move on, real quick, I will to actually talk legitimate college basketball talk instead of refs and dogging teams out. I will say that Mike Bray, I remember watching his teams when I was younger and really enjoying them. And to your point, well, he might not have been able to win the big game for various reasons, talent gap, fouls, whatever. But I enjoyed watching his teams. His best teams that he had were very fun to watch. The shooting was incredible, and I kind of miss him a little bit. I know that a lot of people will be like, "Why?" Because he's garbage now. But you got to look at the whole picture. It's almost like Gary Patterson at TCU.
Yeah, he won
Gary
a
Patterson's
lot.
last few years at TCU were horrible. But what he did at TCU, like TCU's not what they are right now without Gary Patterson. So he's still got to get credit, even if his last few years were bad. So Mike Bray, I still give you tons of credit for what you did at Notre Dame, even though your last few years were poor.
Yeah, dude was like the winningest basketball coach in Notre Dame basketball history. That's big right there.
Yeah, just a couple of years past his expiration date, but had some good years for sure.
I do not have any animosity towards Notre Dame either. It's just, oh my God, we're so good. We're going to win everything all the time. You suck in the end. Accept that you suck. Meet your expectations of how you actually play and stop the overhype.
No, it's okay, Mike. It's okay, Mike.
All right.
I love how Hummus Hero says my most hated teams are that team up north, Clemson, Bama, now Georgia. It's basically all the teams that are good and the rival. That's probably most people's teams they don't like.
To clear the I do not hate Will. I hate Notre Dame.
You should call into Always Irish, man. He's very passionate Notre Dame fan.
I will clarify.
So that would be an interesting
clarify
call.
for me. I don't hate any team.
Mm-hmm.
There is not one team that I hate. There are
except Wisconsin basketball. Except Wisconsin basketball.
Nah, I don't even hate them. I just don't like the fouls.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the fouls. Like to your point about Notre Dame losing, that's the only reason. I don't hate any team.
I think
because if I did, then it would ruin the sports for me. Because it's like just to hate a team with a passion when there's no reason to. It's like people say, "Well, you like Carolina basketball. I mean, you hate." I don't hate Duke. Even if Carolina plays Duke and Duke's got 45 free throws, Carolina's got 10. I'm not gonna hate Duke. It's the way the basketball game is, man. It's the way they're gonna call a game. I'm not gonna hate Duke. Why? Because of the fact I watch all games that I can. I watch different teams. I just try not to hate anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to your point, Jeffrey, or maybe it was Will, I think we have, with Mike Bray, we have a Coach K situation all over where he got so old and then his system doesn't really fit the way modern college basketball is right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you're losing where you're losing and who you're losing to becomes a problem. Like, here's the thing, and this is just an example, not pointing it out, and the thing that'll happen, especially now with the new hire, but if Clemson would lose the next 10 years every year to South Carolina the way they lost this year, I would assume that Dabo Swinney would be gone.
Yes. But then everybody's going to say he's garbage, but
he's not garbage.
He won But see, I don't even care. Like the thing about with Mike Bray is like, who cares that he didn't win a national title? Who cares?
Mhm.
Because he took him to 2 Elite Eights, and the talent on those teams. How many Notre Dame players are in the NBA?
Really, just Pat
Not
Connaughton.
There's not that many, and that right there will suggest to you
Oh,
that he overexceeded expectations
Mhm.
throughout his whole career, not the last 4 years, but up to 2017. He overexceeded
I think it's just like
expectations.
Wesley and Pat Connaughton, but I can look into it. Who else is?
Yeah, and to your point, Will, when we were talking one time, I mean, Blake Wesley carried that team. Like, if he's not on that team, Notre Dame's horrible last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you have to have talent to win big in college basketball and college football, but you can still win a lot with less talent, especially when a coach has everything figured out at that time. Everything's going. You have the right players. They just fit and everything's working. But for whatever reason, Mike Bray just could not do that this last few years. And again, I just don't think that should take away from what he did do at Notre Dame over his whole tenure.
Yeah, Matt Ryan's on the Timberwolves. That's it. It's just those three right now. Yeah.
So, I mean, in the end, he's a better coach than he's given credit for, and he should be given as a good coach. Again, it kind of really falls under the umbrella of Thad Matta because those teams are pretty good most of the time, and most of the time, you'd end up with really deep tournament runs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Thad Matta had more talent, but they might be similar coaches, I guess. You can make an argument. All right. Should we pick some games, fellas?
Yes.
I'm all set. Are you all set, gents?
Yeah, let's go.
I'm ready. I'm ready to pick all these games, and I don't hate any team.
All right. Well, we got the Capital City Classic. So it's Richmond and VCU. I'm not going to say anything. I just want to hear the experts talk it out, and then I'll give my biased opinion.
Well, I mean, this game right here is a sneaky one. I mean, Richmond is not as good as they were last year when they made the tournament, beat Iowa, but they're still solid. It's on the road, but VCU won at Dayton, so I'm picking them again. And I say that again because I picked them once before, but I did not pick them against Dayton. Mistake. So I'm picking the Rams.
Right.
Picking VCU to beat Richmond 71-65.
My turn. I'm gonna go VCU 70-61.
You would make me have to be the outlier because we already know who Will's picking.
Nah.
Hey, I mean, I would, but I mean, I picked Dayton, man. I mean, VCU beat Dayton. If you beat Dayton, you should beat Richmond, but you never know. It's college basketball. And to Edward's point, it would surprise if VCU doesn't show up after that win versus Dayton. Completely agree. I mean, it could happen.
I mean, it's close. It's a 1-point favorite in the corner of VCU. So, I mean, really a toss-up. I'm going to go Richmond 71-69.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it's going to be close because when we play at the Robins Center, it's always a close game, it seems like. We usually, especially with Mike Rose, like when we were with Shaka and Will Wade, we just out-talented them. But with Mike Rose, they definitely play us a bit closer in Robins Center. I went to they make it almost impossible for VCU fans to go to the game unless they want to pay a fortune. And I did that. I paid freaking $100 to go to the game last year in the Robins Center, and we won on a buzzer beater, and it was awesome. And then we beat them by 20 in the Siegel Center. So, but unfortunately, we choked. We didn't really choke against them in the conference tournament, but freaking Jacob Gilliard got 30 points. And he was making all these contested
The all-time
threes.
steals leader in NCAA history.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was really the only game they really played well in. They kind of just got lucky in their other A-10 games, which was unfortunate because if they played probably as well as they would against Dayton, Davidson, we probably would have won, but it sucks. But yeah, Tyler Burton's a problem for Richmond. He's probably going to be a draft pick.
There we go.
But I don't know, man. I feel like we're playing really well. We freaking won by 28 against UMass on Tuesday. I feel like we're playing well, and I feel like we're going to get the win, but it's going to be stressful as always because when we play in Henrico County, because it's not in Richmond. Richmond isn't in Richmond. They're in Henrico County, right next to Richmond.
Really? We beat UMass, and that's a positive.
Well, we beat them by 28. We beat them by 28. Like, we showed up against UMass.
Yeah. Doesn't UMass have the former South Carolina coach?
They do have Frank Martin.
I mean, hey, man. I mean, that's a former Power 5 coach there. I mean, that's got to count for something. It's like beating Archie Miller. I mean,
Archie.
But yeah, he also made a Final Four with South Carolina as well. But he's building there, man.
The Minutemen.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we'll win. The game will be on ESPN2 tomorrow at 7. Not really any other great games on, so check it out. A10's fun to watch.
And thank you, ESPN2, for putting it on Friday nights, man.
Yeah. All right. Miami at Duke. What do you guys think about this one?
This right here is very interesting because I mean we're talking Miami like they're bad, they're just like the Buckeye Mike's point, they're overrated, they're not good, but Miami's still playing good basketball. I mean they brought in all the players in the offseason and they had some returnees, and I mean it's meshing together fairly well. I mean they've had a couple poor performances, but I think overall Miami's still solid, but it's at Duke and that's the tough thing. Duke has not played as good this year, but Duke, when it's at Duke, you have the Cameron Crazies. I mean, the Whistle's friendlier probably. I mean, it's the talent gap's still wide. I mean, Duke's more talented than Miami. They have more talent, even though a couple of their guys are banged up. And that's another reason why Duke's struggling. I mean, because if they had all of their star-studded freshman class playing, they'd probably be better than they are right now, but a lot of them have been hurt. So, and some of them are still out. But I'm just gonna say that I want to pick Miami, and they could pull it off. And they've beat Duke at Cameron before, but I'm gonna go Duke to beat Miami, 72-68.
Jackson,
I'm gonna go Duke. 70-67.
And Mike?
Yeah. So, Miami's playing really good right now. Duke is struggling, but it's to everyone else's point due to injuries. To the quote on the screen, it feels like a must-win for the Blue Devils. Yes, it does. Because if you lose here, you're probably looking at potentially not making the tournament. But again, still 2 months away, so who knows? Because you could turn around and win the ACC tournament and still get in. That being said, give me Duke 76-75.
The reason I want to pick Miami, and I'm going to do it because of coaching. Like Coach L, Jim Larinaga, is one of the best coaches in the country. He has been since he took over at Mason, turned that program into a winning program, which now isn't, unfortunately. It's sad. Even though we're technically rivals, BCU and Mason, it's just sad that stadium's not even half full most times.
Mike, who did you pick on Miami, Duke?
You.
But yeah. And John Shire is just starting out. Edward. And John Shire's starting out, and I feel like Coach L just knows how to win big games. He's won in the tournament, so I'm going to go him over Duke because of that. I feel like even with the Cameron Crazies, the talent isn't that much of a difference that I feel like Miami will pull it out. So. All right. TCU at Kansas.
Are you sure that's who it is? Because I can't even read the top text.
Yeah, it's TCU at Kansas. And
Yeah, this game, I mean, Kansas, you lose by 1 at K-State. Fantastic game. And then TCU, they've been struggling a bit. And to your point, Will, Kansas has almost lost a lot of games at home, but they've pulled them out. They're going to pull out another one. I'm going to pick Kansas to beat TCU 70-70.
I'm going to go Kansas 65-55. You said Kansas, Jeffrey?
Kansas.
Right. All right.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm going to go to TCU 60-56.
Oh, you're going road dogs, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Road dog.
I think it'll be really close at the end, but Jalen Wilson, the guy just has a knack of making big shots. They couldn't really get the ball to him against Kansas State at the end, but I feel like they'll be able to do it this time against TCU. So I'm going to go with So I'm going to go with the Jayhawks. Yeah.
Hold on. Because TCU doesn't suck. So TCU doesn't deserve the who.
I can't hear you. TC who?
Oh my gosh. All right, we got Mike's Buckeyes.
Oh God.
Hosting the Hawkeyes. What do you guys think?
Oh,
this is a really tough game for me to pick because of the fact in the Big Ten, it is really hard to win on the road. I know that Buckeye Mike's gonna say that Minnesota did it. So I mean, it is tough to win on the road. There's a lot of reasons. I mean, you know, the fan bases in the Big Ten, you know, at home are really good. And I mean, just things don't go your way per se in the Big Ten on the road. A lot of things don't go your way. You don't get the call sometimes, you know, the team go on a big run and the crowd gets in. You just sometimes things don't go your way, but Ohio State's reeling right now. They really, you talk about a must win for Duke. This is a must win for Ohio State. I mean, they have to win this game. But Iowa's playing really well, but it just seems like teams in the Big Ten, they go on a run and then they lose a game, you know, out of nowhere. It's like they're playing really well, and it's like they're looking like a top team in the Big Ten, and they just lose a game. So that makes me weary to pick Iowa, but Ohio State's playing really bad. But, I mean, they can win, but I will take Iowa to beat Ohio State 68-65, but I would not be surprised if Ohio State won either.
That inconsistency of Ohio State. I'm just like, I'm going to go Iowa 70-62.
All right, Mike, do you think you guys can do it?
Absolutely not. It's going to come down to the wire, but absolutely not. Give me Iowa 70-69 on the last second three.
Well, now that you said that, I feel like I can't pick the. You being so confident that you Buckeyes would lose. I was considering taking them, but I just can't now. Keegan Murray with the dagger, 70-67.
Yeah, Chris Murray's had a really good season for Iowa, and he's probably going to follow in his brother's footsteps for sure.
Okay, so we're
I said the wrong guy.
We're all going with Iowa.
I think that Fran McCaffrey was really smart to keep him on the bench last year.
I mean,
It's
the
all
thing.
us going Iowa.
Yeah. Here's the thing. It wouldn't necessarily surprise me if Ohio State wins, but I have more confidence in Iowa winning because, to Jeffrey's point,
Hey,
Ohio State's
Michael, how's it
What's up,
going?
Michael?
Hey, Michael.
What up?
Ohio State's reeling right now, to Jeffrey's point, and you just lost 2 games back to back to the bottom feeder / middle of the pack teams in Minnesota and Nebraska. So, Buckeye Nation, if you want the win, you gotta show up, show out, be loud. If you sit next to an Iowa dude, maybe not actually, but maybe punch him in the face. Not actually though. Don't actually do that. We don't condone violence. I'm just trying to be funny. But again, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me, but I highly doubt it'll happen.
All right.
UCLA,
This will be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this game, I mean, I'm very conflicted here because UCLA has been on a roll and they've been playing really well. But Arizona, that place is going to be loud, man. The McHale Center, I mean, you're going to be at home in a big game like this. It's going to be loud. And Arizona has struggled at times this season, but when they've lost to teams that they should have beaten, teams that they've overlooked. So that leads me to believe they're going to show up in this game, and I'm going to pick Arizona to beat UCLA 80-77.
I'm going to go UCLA 75-74.
To Jeffrey's point, this one's tough. To his earlier point with Iowa, Ohio State, it is hard to win on the road. Yes, Minnesota's whatever. It doesn't matter. It happens every once in a while. Give me Arizona 76-75 on a last second paint shot.
Friend of the show, Chris TVM, said this is the best UCLA team that he's seen in a long time. Even better than the Johnny Juzang team, which lost to the
Yeah, you
Buccaneers.
got a question from Michael Hogg, Jeffrey. And it's a question about who you picked in UCLA, Arizona State. Well, Buckeye Mike and I were the only ones that picked Arizona State.
Yeah, I
so-
picked UCLA. That's what I wrote right below it. I just wrote, I think I picked UCLA. I actually could not remember, but I think I
You
did. So I
did.
Okay.
I remember because I wrote it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't. I probably should, but that's what you're here for, man.
I'm the
Right,
stat guy.
So yeah, I'm gonna go UCLA just because of that, and I just trust Mick Cronin to grind out these big games. So I'm gonna say UCLA wins by about 4. So yeah, should be a good game. UVA and Wake.
This one's tricky. I mean, Virginia has been solid this year, but they just don't seem elite either. They're just solid. And Wake Forest is capable of beating, quality teams. Steve Forbes has done a really good job making them a competent program. And to Edward's point here, because it happened to his Clemson Tigers, 33-14 discrepancy. I think Wake's going to win. So I'm going to go with Wake to beat Virginia 75-66.
Wake Forest 74-68 against Virginia.
So to your point, Jeffrey, with the refs, I think what will happen is Virginia is going to jump out front big, and the refs are going to be a major factor in the end because they're going to start calling everything on Virginia, which it will allow Wake to come back and win. I think it'll be Wake 72, Virginia 65.
Ooh, I don't know, man. I'm leaning Wake though. I'm gonna go Wake since they're at home and they do.
Here's the thing: I'll take Wake though, so you'd almost be better off taking Virginia, but you do you.
I don't know, man. I think Virginia will get the stop at the end. I'm going UVA. I'm changing it up. Mike influenced me. I was on the fence. All right. Yeah.
Old fence setter.
In Kentucky. Here we go.
8-on-5 theory. What's that?
Yeah. What?
I think it's referencing the rest because when Edward said Wake at home, the rest is a dub. Michael said Edward really. Here we go with the 8-on-5 theory. I think he's talking about the refs, but I mean, if your opponent has 20 more free throws than you, you're not going to win very often.
True.
This game right here, A&M catching Kentucky at a bad time. I think they're getting in a groove. They've won the last two. I'm going to go Kentucky to beat Texas A&M 70-62.
Oh, if it was at A&M, I'd be going A&M, but I gotta go Kentucky because they're gonna beat Buzz Lightyear Williams.
I don't know. I mean, Kentucky seems unproven. They're coming off a high of a win against Tennessee. I'll take a chance. I'll go Texas A&M 72-71.
Buzz Lightyear Williams to the rescue.
I don't want to be mean to A&M fans, but I don't know, man. Like, I'm looking at the teams that they played, and they haven't really played. I mean, maybe the SEC is just a little down this year in basketball.
Again, Kentucky just came off a high of beating Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And then they
most likely won't show up.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Georgia, and Oscar Sheboy had 37 and 24 or some crazy stat line like that. I mean, if he puts that up again, then A&M is no shot.
So, yeah, I'm going to lean Kentucky just because Kentucky's rolling right now. Yeah. Well, I do like getting into Jimbo and the Texas all your money. But, I mean, who knows? It would be a great story if A&M won. But, like, they haven't played Tennessee or Kentucky or Bama yet. So, I'm just not sold on them. But, hey, if they win this game, I'm probably picking them next time they play.
Unless it's at Alabama.
Oh,
yeah.
All right, we got a fun Big East matchup here.
Marquette and Seton Hall.
Seton Hall.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, this game between Marquette and Seton Hall. Seton Hall just beat UConn. And I know that's where a lot of people are going to pick them. But something's wrong with UConn. Literally right now, they've collapsed. They went from unstoppable to they can't win. So I have a lot of confidence in Shaka Smart. He's done a really good job at Marquette. I'm gonna take Marquette to beat Seton Hall 79-72.
I'm picking Marquette to win 75-61 against Seton Hall.
What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I think, with UConn being on a downfall right now, plummeting back towards planet Earth. I just think Seton Hall may be coming in overly confident, and I'm gonna go Marquette 79-75.
This might bite me in the butt, but I'm gonna be the outlier in this one. I'm gonna go with the Pirates. I think Shaheen Holloway, he's starting to put it in his culture. Jackson, can you mute? You're echoing. I'm sorry, buddy. Can you mute for a second? Okay. I think that Shaheen Holloway, he's turned it around and he's going to get it going. I mean, the guy took St. Peter's to an Elite Eight, and I think they're finally getting good. And I think they could make a run to get into the tournament.
You're just scared of Marquette, bro. And you got some serious issues against UConn, dude.
Bruh, you're going with Satan Hall over Shakalaka Smart? Come on.
Well, I don't know, man. I like
Hey, I'm
the
just
direction
kidding.
that they're going. They're hot.
I mean, to Will's point, I mean, I think that it's possible that they could have this big win carry over, but I just feel Marquette's playing much better basketball than UConn, and Seton Hall barely beat them. So using that logic, Marquette, as long as they play really good again, they should beat Seton Hall. But again, we don't know. I mean, while you watch the games.
Yeah. So we got the battle for North Kakalaki, NC State, and North Carolina. As the resident Kakalakian, what do you think, Jeffrey?
Yeah, so this is one of my teams that are on my likability list at the top. North Carolina. You know, I mean, like I said, I'm as unbiased as possible.
Wait, they're not 9-0. I freaking messed it up. I sometimes it says a conference record, and sometimes it says the home record. So they're 9-0 at home.
But yeah, I knew they weren't 9-0. But
yeah, they're 9-0 at home, but they're 5-3 in conference play. So they still got a shot to win the ACC regular season title.
But I'm as unbiased when it comes to all these teams, man. Carolina, NC State, Duke, Wake. I mean, it don't matter. I'm very unbiased, but I mean, Carolina, I like it better. But they've been disappointing this year, obviously, because they were the preseason number 1 team. But North Carolina is still really good. It's just the fact that you've got 2 guards that last season couldn't make shots until close to the tournament and into the tournament, and RJ Davis and Caleb Love. And so far this season, they haven't been able to hit anything. In last few games, they're starting to hit shots again. I mean, it literally comes down to them making shots. And then Armando Bacot being Oscar Tshiebwe diet with 19, 20 boards and 20-something points because he wasn't healthy. You know, earlier in the year. I mean, the Indiana game, I mean, I think with healthy Bacot that they still lose that game, but it's closer. And then they lose to Virginia and he's not playing. I mean, they've lost a lot of games because of the fact that Armando Bacot's been out or not healthy. He's back and he's playing really good right now. The guards, even Caleb Love, who at times cannot hit the broadside of a barn, but at other times he hits the shot that ends Coach K's career. So he's streaky, but this game's at home, and Carolina fans will show up because it's their rivals in NC State. And Terquavian Smith is a fantastic basketball player. Jarkel Joyner, they got good players. NC State, really solid team, but I will take UNC to beat NC State 82-78.
I'm going to go North Carolina 74-64.
Well, we're in store for a classic on this one. Give me NC State 82, North Carolina 81, missing a tough contested shot for 2 at the end of the game.
I'm going last second Armando Bacot tip in. Carolina wins 80-78, but I could definitely be wrong on this one too. Sorry, what were we gonna say, Jackson? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, it's okay. You said Buckeye Mike. You said North Carolina or NC State.
NC State.
Oh, you're the outlier out of all of us in this one. All right.
Here we go. All right. USC and Arizona State.
Can I just get this out of the way real quick? Because I'm pretty sure we kind of know which way I'm going on this. I'm just going to go Arizona State. Give me Arizona State 62-60.
All right, Jeffrey.
Yeah, Arizona State fell short against UCLA just now, but USC is not as good as UCLA, even though they are a solid team, and they almost beat UCLA. But I think Arizona State, Bobby Hurley, he's got a really solid team. Is at home. I think they're going to win 70-66.
You said Arizona State, Jeffrey?
Arizona State.
All right. I'm going Arizona State 65, USC 60.
Yeah, I'm going to Arizona State 78-71. All right, Jeffrey's team. The Hoosiers, are they going to keep it going at home?
All right, this game is extremely tough because, Indiana, you're on a 3-game losing streak. Your two of your top players are hurt, Xavier Johnson, Race Thompson. Your star player, Trace Jackson Davis, is hobbled, not playing as well because of his back injury. But he's back to playing elite level basketball. He just put up 35 points, 9 boards, 5 assists, and 3 blocks on Illinois on the road. And he's the first major conference player to do that on the road in over 20 years. So if he has another monster game, all odds are pointing toward Indiana winning this game, and it's at home. The crowd's going to be crazy. But Michigan State has been playing really good basketball as well lately, and they lost to Purdue by 1. Yes, that is true, at home. But besides that, they've been really solid. But, and I know this is an insane way to pick, but we started picking these games over a week and a half ago, and I've picked against Indiana twice, and they won both games. So, I mean, do I want to pick them, or do I want to pick against them so they'll win? I mean, it's kind of tough, but I'll just take Michigan State to see if it happens again for IU. I'll take Michigan State, even though in my mind it's like IU's gonna win because they're playing better. I'm gonna take Michigan State to beat Indiana 70-66, and we'll see what happens again.
So you get on Will about the conspiracy theories or whatever you want to call it, but you are believing in your own conspiracy theory.
I don't believe it. I'm playing it off for laughs here.
I'm going to go Indiana 70-65 against Michigan State.
I have picked Indiana the last 2 times, and because the man below me has no belief in his own team. So, give me the Hoosiers 60-59.
I think the Hoosiers will run it up. I'm going 85-70 Hoosiers.
Okay. I mean, hey, I'm
Okay,
right there with you guys here. Okay, I'm right
This is
there.
worrisome. This is worrisome now because technically Jeffrey's real pick is Indiana. We all know it really is.
It's Michigan
As
State.
far as what counts, you didn't pick them, but we all know your actual pick is Indiana.
Well,
So this is a little worrisome.
Yeah, it's terrible, man. I mean, come on, Austin or somebody or anybody pick Michigan State. No, I mean, the thing is, I don't believe it like that, man. I mean, it's just, well, to Edward's point here, the Hoosiers are 2-4. Well, now they're 3-4. They just beat Illinois, but they've had injuries. Like, if Indiana was a healthy team, they're not at the record that they're at. I mean, it's just the way it is. I mean, you lose 2 of your starters, and you're just not as good of a team. But Indiana's finding his way without them, and if they get them back, both Race Thompson and Xavier Johnson within the next month, they could be dangerous in February, March. So, I don't know. I mean, Michigan State and Indiana usually creates classics, and Michigan State gets the better of Indiana most years. I mean, I could definitely see Michigan State winning, but, I mean, Indiana should win this game based on the way they've won their last 2.
All right.
Will, who are you picking on Indiana, Michigan State, or did you make a
I
pick?
picked the Hoosiers.
You went with the Hoosiers, so it's all of us ganging up on Jeffrey, huh?
Yeah.
So I have a question for Jeffrey.
Mhm.
So if Indiana does not qualify for the tournament with win total, how deep of a Big Ten tournament run do you think they need to qualify?
Well, I don't know how they're going to finish the year. I mean, if they were fully healthy all year, then it wouldn't matter because they'd have made the tournament easily. But, I mean, I think I said before when they lost the 3 games, when they lost to Penn State, Northwestern, and Iowa, Race Thompson went down, and then they lost to Northwestern by 1 at home, and then they lost at Penn State in a game they just played terrible. I said that they needed to win, assuming Race Thompson and Xavier Johnson return in early February, which is what all odds are reporting anyway, especially for Race Thompson. I said they needed to win 3 or 4 games between the Penn State loss and early February to make the tournament once they get back, because that would put them at 14 wins if they win 4, and then they would only need 4 more wins to make the tournament because they'd be 18-13, and they'd make the tournament because they'd have enough quality wins. So they're already halfway there because they beat Wisconsin and Illinois. So if they beat Michigan State and they beat Minnesota, they've already crossed that threshold of what they need to do before they get their starters back. So I don't think they're going to need the Big Ten tournament unless Race Thompson and Xavier Johnson do not return as anticipated, or Indiana chokes and loses all their games between now and their return.
Okay. I just wondered.
All right.
But if they're like 17-14, then they'd have to win 2 games to make the tournament. But if they're 18-13 or better, they'll make the tournament without winning a game in the Big Ten tournament, based on what was going on this season where everybody's beating up on each other.
Jeffrey, you know it would be fun, though, if somehow VCU and Indiana play in the first 4. That would be fun.
Wow.
It'd be better than the Indiana-Wyoming game last year.
Yeah.
Wow. I'll definitely watch that.
Yeah, that would be fun. It probably won't happen.
I would be taking the hour and a half drive down to Dayton to watch that in person.
Yeah.
Bison.
Who you gonna be cheering for? Both teams?
No, bro. In that case, screw Will and VCU, dude. I got your back, bro.
Oh man,
I'm going with whoever, wherever the money goes on that one. Money goes with VCU, I'll go with that. Money goes with Indiana, that's where I'll go.
I'm assuming that Indiana would be favored against VCU in a first 4 game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously.
I mean that doesn't mean that Indiana would win the game.
True.
Either. I mean, Indiana was a 7-point dog against Illinois tonight.
I mean, I also could be a total me and pull a total reversal and start the game rooting for Indiana, and then if Indiana chokes, I'll just take off my Indiana shirt and have my VCU shirt on underneath and start cheering for VCU.
Are you a bandwagon fan, bruh?
See, Buck, that's why I'm a fan of multiple teams. Carolina, Bama, IU, I mean, because if one of them are bad, which is usually IU, I know that. That's why they're my feel-bad team. Alabama and Carolina and other teams I always have to fall back on. They're going to win more games.
So here's the thing, since you brought that up. Indiana basketball is not really a feel bad team. So who's your feel bad college basketball team? Because it can't technically be Indiana because the
It
rest of the
is
teams are
technically
good.
Indiana. Why? Because of the fact that Indiana's been garbage for 20 years.
Okay.
And they got completely destroyed by the NCAA in 2007 over the Eric Gordon thing. That's actually the reason I'm an Indiana fan in the first place, rooting
Oh.
for them twice, because they used to be a great program. Their coach got fired over stuff he shouldn't have done, and then they fell apart, but then they started getting better. But then Kelvin Sampson, who's now winning like heck at Houston, he gets fired at IU because of the fact that Eric Gordon, he texted him or whatever, which every single program does that. When a player's committed to another program, they do that now. But the NCAA back in 2007 decided to gut IU to the point where they couldn't make the tournament for 4 years, and they took all their scholarships away, made Indiana a 7-win team, kind of like Louisville is now. But it's even worse because for Louisville, it's only 1 year, and what Louisville did was worse than what Indiana did by a long shot, but they're getting a lesser punishment. Again, it's ridiculous. And then Tom Crean kind of fixed it, but he couldn't keep it. So I just feel bad for IU basketball, because if you look at Twitter, they're the most trash team in college basketball because they used to be great, and now they're just stuck in mediocrity. And this is the best team that they've had since Tom Crean. And they're still having issues because of injuries. That's why I don't pick them, man. I mean, how am I supposed to pick them to beat Wisconsin last time when they've only beaten Wisconsin 3 times in the last 27 tries? So even though Indiana is still a blue blood, still a great team in a lot of people's minds, they're bad. They're horrible. And they're only slightly getting better now. So to me, they're a feel bad team for me. And the IU football, I just started watching them after I watched the basketball, and I'm like, wow, they're horrible, but their coach is cool. So it's like, yeah, I mean, that's literally how it happened. I mean, I've grown up in North Carolina basketball, Alabama football fan. It's just like IU is just like the team I feel bad for in both sports. I mean, that literally is all it is. I mean,
Well,
I have no reason, no strings or anything to IU. That's just why I just watch them, man.
Well,
Gotcha.
one of these days we're going to see some people pulling for Louisville because, feel bad for what Louisville's been going through over these last few years, Well, what they're going through right now, they got a rough road ahead of them.
Yep, I agree.
Speaking of, 2 of their biggest rivals, Memphis and Cincinnati.
Yeah, this game, this is actually really tough to pick. These are 2 solid American Conference teams. I mean, Penny Hardaway is like the guy that he's done a good job at Memphis, but you still feel like he's kind of underachieved considering all the players that he's had over his tenure so far. Like maybe they should be better than what they've been, but he's still done a pretty good job, I would say, roughly. I mean, getting Kendrick Davis from SMU was big because, I mean, this year's team's not as talented. That was huge. But Cincinnati's tough to beat at home. I don't know, man. This could go either way, but I'll take Cincinnati to win 65-60. It could go either way, though.
I'm going Memphis 62-58.
Oh, this is a tough one. A lot of respect for Penny Hardaway. But, man, I cannot go against the interstate schools unless you're Ohio State. Give me Cincinnati in a close nail biter, 62-60.
Man, I think it's crazy that Landers Nolly, he started off at Virginia Tech, went to Memphis, and is now at Cincinnati. It's just, I don't know, man. The transfer portal is wild sometimes. Like,
Yeah,
sometimes
and to your point about Landers Nolly, when he was at Virginia Tech, he had a couple of games where people thought he could be an NBA player for real. I mean, he still could, maybe, but I mean, he was really, he had stretches of being really good, but he just never put it all together. But yeah, you're right on the portal. It's crazy.
And I think, I don't know, Memphis, they looked really good, but now they're kind of sliding a bit. So I'm going to go Cincinnati to edge them out.
Looks like
78-76.
looks like I'm the only one that's got Memphis.
Mhm.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
We got Houston, number 1, taking on Temple, who's been doing better in conference play.
Number 8, Houston.
Do Owls have a shot?
No.
Yeah, this is one of those games where it's like if Houston shows up and plays a 50% game, they're going to win. As long as it's at least 50%. Temple's better, but they've got one player. Khalif Battle is really, really good. And that's it. So it's like if you got a Houston team with aforementioned Kelvin Sampson, who is a fantastic coach, they got potentially wrongly fired for what gets away with today at IU. But again, I digress. He is a great coach, regardless of if he does anything wrong or not. He can coach at Houston. He is fantastic. I mean, the way he gets his players to play defense, the fact that he's gotten teams with far less talent than, even though he does have Jarris Walker now, a 5-star. But that's his first 5-star he's gotten at Houston. Besides that, it's been all 3 and 4s, and he has gotten Houston to play fantastic basketball for years on end. If they can shut down Khalif Battle, if they can just slow him down, then Temple just does not have enough on the rest of the team to win this game. But if Houston plays awful and Khalif Battle scores 30 points, then it's possible, but it's not likely. So I'll take Houston to beat Temple 72-60.
I'm going Houston 75-57.
Yeah, to Jeffrey's point, as long as it's 50% effort or better, there's no way Temple wins this game. Give me Houston to run away with it, 85-50.
Wow.
Oof. I'll go Houston 84-62.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the game for this week. What games are you guys most excited about?
Wow. Now that you think about it, UCLA, Arizona, and Kansas, Texas. Those are the ones I'm really excited about. Also, that North Carolina State matchup. In-state rivalries. I mean, it's underrated, I know, but still, that is a fun matchup.
Especially considering the NC State is better. That game is definitely going to be a really solid game. I agree with your other picks as well. Those are all great options.
I mean, obviously, Indiana, Michigan State, for me to keep being right about Indiana.
I'm looking forward to Marquette Seton Hall. I want to see if Seton Hall can
Come on, Shaka, beat up on Seton Hall.
Hey, well, what about VC Richmond, man? Gotta get
of course, VC Richmond, man. I'm falling
Yeah,
asleep.
yeah. Don't forget your boys at VC,
Yeah.
man.
Hopefully, me and my friends, we won't be disappointed watching it together tomorrow.
I think the other one for me is probably the TCU game.
TC who?
Oh, man.
I mean, you can do
You're
that
lucky Melissa
whatever
isn't
they
watching
use,
this,
man.
Jack.
LS2, TC who, OS who. I mean, it's like, come on, man. I think it could be a who.
There you go. Well, I mean, TCU got to show us first. Well, they got to show me. They got earn not being called TCU first.
Well, I mean, didn't LSU football already show you that they don't deserve to be called LSU? I mean,
they've done a great job in football.
He's talking about the 2-point conversion.
Well, no, I mean, they did beat up on the Big Ten runner-up too.
Well, in football they're awesome. Basketball they're pretty good, but they beat Kansas.
To
I'm
your
not going.
point, Buck, I like about the Big Ten runner-up. If it was divisionless Big Ten, not the
They would have been. I mean, they're the
runner-up.
fourth best team in the Big Ten. They had a good year, but yeah.
But you can mark it down, gents.
I mean,
On
yeah.
our next live stream, if TCU upsets Kansas on Saturday, I am not calling them TCU. I promise you that. If they upset Kansas.
The last thing, Will, about Purdue being the fourth best team, the only reason why they were the fourth best team is because of the fact you look at the Big Ten and it was the three best, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and then it was just a big jumble that Purdue escaped barely out of. And also Purdue did not have Aiden O'Connell and really hardly any of their important players on offense in the bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
And LSU actually cared to just blow out Purdue because to make Brian Kelly and LSU look like a better team since they blew the A&M game and lost to Georgia in the SEC championship game, and they just played hard.
Yeah.
And I mean, to your point, Purdue would have done better if they had a full team, but Purdue being the fourth best team in the Big Ten, in most years, that's not the fourth best team in the Big Ten.
Well, Purdue, I mean, I felt like when I watched them, like they looked good against Penn State. I mean, they blew it, but they've had some good performances. But yeah, it was a disaster though in the bowl game, unfortunately.
All right. Well, with that being said, I think we're pretty much wrapped up here, gents. So we will catch you here next time. Everyone have a good
Thanks for everyone for
one.
coming
Stay
in.
safe and stay warm, everyone.